Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 65 of Retrotopia. My name's Alan, and today we're doing something a little bit different. I'm going solo, and I am going to rank all of the games that I completed in the year 2024. It amounts to about 63 games. I took to recording all of my wins over the last year and got to a point where I was thinking, well, what the hell do I do with all of this? And it was suggested in the Discord, and apologies if I get this wrong. I think it was Randy Berridge who came up with the idea. If it wasn't, I apologize. If it wasn't, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure it was him who suggested that I do a ranking episode, and I am, of course, a man of the people. So here is your ranking episode. Before I get into all of that though, of course, I'm going to let you know where to go if you decide you like what you hear. We have a link tree, linktr.ee/retrotopia, where you can find all of our social medias. You can find our YouTube, X, Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can also find our Discord. As mentioned earlier, it's a place you can come and chat to all of us and, discuss just about anything that you can think of. We talk movies, we talk music, we talk, obviously, gaming, as you'd expect. But, there's a little bit of everything in there in our Discord. So why not come along and have a chat with us? We'd love to have you on board. Also, of course, we have our Patreon, which you can join for free over at patreon.com/retrotopia, and you can find all of our extra shows like our monthly discussion podcast Retro Bites, where we talk about some of the news in gaming. We talk about some themes in gaming and just give our opinions on what's going on in the world of gaming. You can also get hold of our quick play episodes, which are literally just as it sounds, very quick single man episodes where we pick a game and talk about it very, very quickly. Just give you a little bump to get through your midweek. Now, should you decide that you want a little bit more and you want to support us just that little bit extra, you can, of course, join our $2 Patreon tier where you get all of the above. You get access to our Retrotopia After Dark, which is just a little bit of pre-chat, of course, where usually Sam, Brian, and I, or whoever the hosts of the weeks are, just having a little bit of a chat, a little bit of a catch-up before each episode. You can also pick a quick play game, any game of your choice, and give it to any host of your choice and get us to review it for you. So if there's anyone in particular you think has done a good enough job, then you can say, I'll reward you with this lovely video game I want you to play. Conversely, if there's somebody you think is a right proper bastard, well, you can give them a shit game to play and see how they get on with it. Those are a lot of fun, actually. I do really, really enjoy the Patreon pick quick plays. I've played some interesting games that I wouldn't have ever played without them. So really, really good fun. Well, so that's all of the plugs out of the way. Of course, one of the other benefits of being a Patreon member is you get to comment in our 9-bit banter box. And while I may not be culturally elegant, you lot are extremely culturally elegant. So this is the place for you. Oh, and plenty to talk about today. You guys went crazy on the old 9-bit banter box this week. I love it. Lots to talk about. So, speaking of culturally elegant, we're going to kick things off with Blaine the Hoagie Man, who says, "Hello, old chapter." I don't know if you meant to say chapter or chap, but I like it. Hello, old chapter. My question is, growing up, did you ever keep a collection of your nose goblins? And if you're not sure what nose goblins are, you'll have to rewatch Ren and Stimpy to remind yourself. Blaine. I was brought up on Ren and Stimpy. I know exactly what nose goblins are. I can't say that I ever kept a collection of them because, like any self-respecting child, I would eat them because that's what you do with bogeys when you're a child. Thankfully, something I've grown out of as an adult. I'm seeing that same questionable behaviour in my daughter as we speak. She hasn't quite figured out that you need to keep a collection of your nose goblins. They're straight down the gullet. And apologies to anyone who's now been turned off the podcast. As for, again, collecting things, I already collect enough. I don't need another collection. The house is just not big enough for a collection of nose goblins, but thanks for asking. Next up, we've got Unbuckled Cape, who says, Dear Collector, how many of these games were played and completed completely on breaks at work? I ask because I know how valuable work break time is to my comic reading, and I imagine it's the same for you. It is. Generally speaking, gaming-wise, I get a couple of hours in the evening to game after the aforementioned daughter has gone to sleep. I would say pretty much any game on this list that is... Speak of the devil. Hello there. You come to join in. She's a special guest on the 9-Bit Banter Box. Apologies. I would say any game that on this list that is a handheld game was almost certainly played and completed at work. So yes, all of the I'm not editing that out. Where were we? Yes, any games that I played on handheld were almost certainly played and completed at work during my lunch break. Because that's when I usually like to do all my handheld gaming. It just makes it, because I'm not going to be thinking about work. Certainly not. That's a disgusting idea. Thank you for that, Unbuckled Cape. Moving on. So we've got Sergeant Ombre, who says, Good day, sir. Does your wife know that you have strangers swooning over you on the internet? If not, how do you think she'd react? She wouldn't believe you. She wouldn't believe me, she wouldn't believe you, she wouldn't believe anyone who told her. But nobody is swooning over me. Come on, let's be honest. No, thankfully, my wife is incredibly supportive, not just of my desire to game. I mean, she games as well, of course, but also the strange desires of a very nearly 40-year-old man to talk to complete strangers on the internet. She's incredibly supportive, but I don't think she can take the mental leap it would require to believe that anyone is swooning over me on the internet. And I don't blame her. I'm just me. I'm just Alan. Nothing special. Thank you, Sergeant Ombre. Moving on, Super Dave says, How will you top your list for 2025 and still maintain a modicum of a social life? Ah, Dave, bold of you to assume that I have a modicum of a social life as it is. I don't get out much. Pretty much just game all the time. It is something that I plan to do a bit more of in 2025 is actually reigniting the embers of my social life. I think it's one of the things since becoming a father, and I know we're 3 years down the line now, but still just finding time to do the things. We'll be socializing, I think, more or less during the day, because again, I'm getting on now, and the idea of going out in the evening, with people out there and all of that going on, no, I don't think so. No, I'd sooner be in the evenings tucked up, sitting down on a sofa, pretty much horizontal, playing video games. And that's how I'm going to top that list, by just playing the games, just getting through them. I know this year is going to be the year of Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm going to work my way through all of the Sonic games that I can, as well as anything for the show and just anything else that takes my fancy. But we'll see. We'll see if I can beat 63 games. I'm gonna take a fair swing at it. But at the same time, not to the exclusion of fun. I want to still enjoy what I'm playing. I don't want to think about too much about beating scores or anything like that. I just want to have fun playing video games. So, thanks for that, Super Dave. Moving on, we've got Guy Who Does Things, who says, Hello, Alan. Happy New Year, or as the Brits say, be wishing you a Bammy Rogers Todgers, Gov. We do say that. What games are you looking forward to the most in 2025? The first one that came to mind for me was Borderlands 4, which I'm pretty sure we're getting this year. I'm a huge Borderlands fan. Can't wait for that to come out. It's something that I like to co-op again with the missus, and we've been waiting for that game to come out for years now. So I'm very excited for that. As for everything else, I'm not really sure what's coming out this year. I mean, if that, what was it called? Interstellar? The new Naughty Dog game? If that's coming out this year, I don't care what anyone says, I'm looking forward to that game. I can't imagine a world in which that is not a good video game. Genuinely don't understand why people have been kicking off about that one, having not even fucking played the game. It's just ridiculous. So, grow up. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Nintendo have up their sleeve. I have a funny feeling that we will know that very, very shortly. So, not really a game, of course, but I'm looking forward to seeing what the next system is all about. And Assassin's Creed. I know it's a troubled production and it's been delayed, but again, huge Assassin's Creed fan, and I will keep playing them as long as they keep making them. So looking forward to that one as well. And there's probably about a million other games that I've been looking forward to, and I can't think of any of them right now because, you know, I'm on the spot and I don't do well on the spot. So thank you. Thanks for that guy who does things. And now finally, now, these have all been fantastic questions, and I've enjoyed every minute of it, but I have to say, if I had to give an award for best question this week, I am giving it to Fallen Snow Kiku. And she says, "Hey there, Alan, what's your favourite episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer?" Kiku. This could be an entire podcast in itself. I can only imagine I must have expressed my love of Buffy the Vampire Slayer at some point for you to know to ask me this most important of questions, but I am a die-hard Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. It is undeniably the best show I have ever watched. I don't care what anyone says. Nostalgically, growing up, I watched this show and it is perfect. So to pick a best episode, that's a question and a half. I could probably give you a best episode from every season, and you know what? I'm not doing a gentleman's interlude, so fuck it. I'm going to give you my favourite episode from every series, and then probably the best episode overall. So I think season 1, it's got to be Angel, right? It's got to be, that's probably the best episode of season 1. The episode called Angel. Great episode, lots of Darla in that episode, and I do appreciate Julie Benz. I think she's absolutely fantastic, and she was brilliant in that series. Series 2, I would probably say, it's got to be Passion. Obviously no spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched it, but that is a hard episode to get through. It is brutal. Season 3 probably has my absolute favourite episode of the series overall. I am a big Season 3 fan. I'm going to cheat and say Graduation Day. If I can say both, Part 1 and Part 2, but if not, then I'll say Graduation Day Part 2, because I still get chills every time that the graduating class of Sunnydale High throws off their robes and literally goes to war, and it is magnificent, fantastic. Series 4, difficult one to pick. Obviously, this is the black sheep of the family. I like this series, but I'm probably going to give it to something like, I don't know, Primeval or Restless. Those last 2 episodes are pretty good. Season 5, it's going to... the best episode is undeniably The Body, right? It's got to be. It's impossible to get through. It's gut-wrenching, but there it is. Series 6, I know we want to say Once More with Feeling. I'm just having a look now. Obviously, the last few episodes are fantastic as well, but I think it's almost certainly going to be Once More with Feeling. Have I missed a serial? Have I missed... Where was Hush? Oh, no, okay. Yep, sorry. Hush is Series 4 best episode. Sorry, going back to that. Absolutely. Series 6, we've Once More with Feeling, and Series 7 is either Conversations with Dead People or Chosen, the final ever episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which to this day I cannot watch without weeping. I don't care who knows it. Wow. That'll do it for the 9-bit banter box, guys. Thank you, Kiku. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for writing in. That was loads of fun, but we have to move on. So, no gentleman's interlude this week because I'm talking enough as it is, and I just don't think it would fit into the episode. No game of the week, naturally. So, what have I been doing? What have I been playing? Well, I've been playing Borderlands 2, still working our way through that. I completed Squirrel with a Gun recently, playing Kingdom Hearts for an upcoming episode of the show. What else? I've still been dabbling with a bit of Harvest Moon on the Game Boy Color, but that's taking some time to get through, and I find I can't play it for very long without getting bored because it's just the same thing over and over and over at the moment. I'm just grinding for money. Um, what else? I beat Sonic CD yesterday, so that is the next game in the series that I've been working through. So what's after that? I think I'll be starting Sonic Chaos on the Master System soon, which I really like that game, so I'm looking forward to that. Um, Nothing big. Pokemon Violet has kind of fallen by the wayside a bit because it's a huge game and I'm just not finding time to play it, but that I'll have to take to work, I reckon. And I don't know, I think that's everything. So, what we're going to do, we're going to do something, we're going to do it a little bit different this time because we do have comments on the episode where we would usually read them here. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle these throughout the episode itself. So, whenever I think they fit into the episode, I'll just slip them in between or into the list, and I think we'll do it that way. I think that's going to make for a nice bit of variety. So, without further ado, I've been Alan, thank you for listening, and let's get into my ranking of all 63 games that I completed in the year 2024. Thanks for listening and enjoy the episode. All right then, 63 games to get to and lots to talk about, so let's get stuck in. Now, before I start, I would just like to set a couple of ground rules here, of course. So these are 63 games that I completed in 2024. Some of them were for the podcast, some of them were just for me, just for fun. So while there may be some that I gave a ranking on an episode, that doesn't count here because A, I can't remember what I ranked it as, and B, I'm just going with my gut on this lot here. I'm just ranking them by which I'd prefer to play. So, if I gave something a 9 and something a 7 and I've swapped them round here, I don't really care. Yeah, my list. So, right, let's get down to it. So before we get into the list here, we're going to kick things off with Sir Busts-a-Lot, who wrote in to say, awesome list of games. Regardless of the ranking order, you have a great variety here, buddy. I hope the new year brings lots of new games to beat. Me too, Sir Busts-a-Lot. Thank you very much. Thank you for the thank you for your approval of the list of games. It is quite a diverse mix. So let's get down to business. Starting with 63. Another World for the Sega Mega Drive. This was known as Out of This World in North America, and it's an action adventure platformer, very similar in style to things like Flashback and I guess the early Prince of Persia games. Just not quite as good as either. I mean, while no game on this list I'll go out of the way to say is completely without merit and completely terrible. This game just relied a lot on some very cheap deaths. The game mechanics were sort of broken. I know it gets a lot of love for what it tried to achieve, and I mean, it is a good looking game for the time, that sort of rotoscoped style. But I'm not adverse to dying on a game over and over and over again, but When you do the same thing over and over again, and only sometimes it works and other times it doesn't, it does get awfully frustrating. So, bottom of the list, number 63, Another World, or if you prefer, Out of This World. 62. Well, now this one stings because at number 62, just one up from bottom, I have put Castlevania The Adventure for the original Game Boy. And it hurts because as you know, I love Castlevania. So to have one this far down on the list feels almost sacrilege. The problem with this is it is a Castlevania game on the Game Boy and is horribly limited by the technology of the time. It's painfully slow. The controls are, if not broken, then fairly close to it, and it just requires a level of precision in platforming that the gameplay and controls makes almost impossible to do correctly. So I God, this took some beating, this game, and I almost certainly will probably not play it ever again. I don't know. Maybe one day if I'm drunk, I'll pop it in and rage again. But felt good to beat it, but not a great game, I'm afraid. Sorry about that, Castlevania. Number 61. And if I'm honest, I felt a little bit cheap about putting this one on the list of games I beat because it is Golf for, again, the original Game Boy. You remember the grey cartridge with Mario taking a swing on the front there. Very, very basic golf simulator, if you can call it that. I am terrible at golf games, if I'm completely honest with you, and this was no different. I mean, I played through all of the different modes that were available, so I consider this game one that I completed. Um, Not to any degree that I would be proud of my standings. Certainly, I'm not going to make it to the big golfing tournament. Yeah, you know the one, the thing with the clubs. Moving on. Number 60 is Alex Kidd in Miracle World for the Sega Master System. And I know there are some of you out there who absolutely adore this game, and I do have huge nostalgic ties to it being the first game I ever played as a child. And it's bright, it's colorful, it sounds great. It's just not a terribly good platformer. It's very slippy, it's very slidey, and that janken mechanic that they have in there for beating the bosses is completely broken unless you know the exact order of things. So to to be on a good run and have it scuppered by the wrong choice of a rock, paper, or scissors just seems a little too on the cheap side for me. Um, Not dead last, of course, because nostalgia saved this one. So there is for the Patreons, there is a quick play somewhere in the archives there if you want to hear all of my thoughts about Alex Kidd in Miracle World, and so go and check it out. Number 59. Now this is probably the first most controversial pick on the list here, because at number 59 I have put Baldur's Gate 2, which I played on the what was it, enhanced editions or whatever they're called on the Nintendo Switch. Um, I know that this game is one of the godfathers of that style of game, the old top-down, I guess, dungeon crawling RPG. I just could not get on with it. Probably more to do with me than anything else. I didn't really know how to set up a party. I got stomped in almost every battle that I got myself into, and I really had to nerf the difficulty on this one just to get through it. So sorry, Baldur's Gate 2, it's probably not you. I think I just don't get that style of game. I mean, there are other Baldur's Gate games higher up on this list, and for good reason, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe you'll disagree with me. Come at me. Let me know. Number 58 is 1080 snowboarding for the N64. bit of a snub to have it this far down on the list. I think we all remember 1080 snowboarding as just being an all-out good time for our N64s. I think this is one of those games that whether it turns up on any of your lists, it's one we've all played. I don't know. It's a fine snowboarding game. I enjoyed it. A bit short, unless you're going for, I guess, all of the high difficulties and things like that. Oh, it's just fun. I like a snowboarding game. I haven't played many of them, but this is one I do rather enjoy. Um, just not enough to get it any higher than 58. At number 57. Now, this is a game that I played exclusively for one of our quick play episodes, and I had no experience with it whatsoever beforehand. It is, of course, Bionic Commando for the original Nintendo Entertainment System. Uh, interesting, interesting platformer. It has a lot of depth considering it could have just been a straightforward platformer. I liked the traversing the map. I liked the different areas that you could go into in whatever order you wanted to do. They did a lot with Bionic Commando. The one, the problem is, while I can see the appeal of the mechanic that you use the arm to swing around the level, I just don't think it was incredibly well implemented. I mean, that lack of being able to jump really hurt this game, in my opinion. It's just, excuse me, choking on my own tea. It's just having to hop over a chest high block by swinging from the rooftop just seemed a little bit excessive. A fun mechanic when you needed to use it, but unfortunately, just didn't click for me. Um, Number 56 was Dragon Crystal for the Sega Game Gear, and if you've not heard of this one, I don't blame you because neither had I. I picked this up among a few different games for my battery battery munching Game Gear. It's a very early example of a roguelike. Every level is randomized. You have to make your way through a maze, finding different weapons and different power-ups to get further into the game. There are 30 odd levels in there. And yeah, you work your way through, find the magical goblet at the end, and you've completed the game. Sounds easy in principle, but the doing of it is sometimes very simple, sometimes very difficult, depending on the hand you've been dealt. And I'm finding more and more that I think I'm becoming a bit of a roguelike guy. I've played this, which surprisingly I really enjoyed. I played, what was it, Rogue Legacy, which I really enjoyed. I think I'm going to have to look into some more roguelikes. I think this is a gameplay style that I could find myself getting into. So yeah, Dragon Crystal looks good, sounds good, plays very well. Nice little hidden gem. Number 55 is again something that I probably would never have played if not for one of your quick plays. Um, this was picked, I think, more out of spite than out of love, but I ended up having more fun with it than I expected. And that is, of course, Pepsi Man for the PlayStation 1. I played it on the PSP. I finally figured out how to get my PSP sick enough to play Japanese exclusive ROMs on it, and so I played the endless runner game Pepsi Man, which I was expecting to suck. Now, I'm not going to say too much about this because I don't think that quick play has come out yet, but it's in the bank, it's ready to go. So I'll give you my full thoughts on Pepsi Man when I do, and surprisingly, not as negative as you might think. So there you go. Moving on to number 54, Lilo and Stitch 2 for the Game Boy Advance. I'll be honest with you, this is a game that my little sister left behind when she moved away, and I just thought, fuck it. It's a Game Boy Advance game. I love Game Boy Advance games. I'm going to give this one a go. And it's a perfectly reasonable, if slightly unremarkable, platformer. It looks very much like the animated movies and series and what have you. So it definitely has that Lilo and Stitch vibe. And plays well enough as well to boot. I actually enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would. Licensed games do tend to be a bit of a mixed bag, but this one was pretty solid. And I don't know about you, but I've only ever seen the first Lilo and Stitch film, but I really like that film, especially when Stitch just thunder cunts that book into the what's it? What is he? The social worker's head. I piss myself laughing every time. Uh, Good times. Moving on. Nearly gave it away. 53 is Dissidia Final Fantasy, which was for an episode of Retrotopia. Sam and I talked about this rather interesting Final Fantasy fighter months ago. Can't remember when. It's fine. It's a fighting game. I'm not traditionally very good at fighting games, which means they don't usually rank very high on my list. Very nice to look at, very nice to listen to, and I got on with the game mechanics a lot easier than a lot of fighting games because, as I said, I generally suck at them. So this was something that an idiot like myself could actually get on with quite well. Nice to hear all of those Final Fantasy characters talk and see some of them in full 3D. Especially the ones from the earlier 2D Final Fantasy games. So that was a nice little treat there. Not a bad game by any stretch. I enjoyed my time with it. It's just hampered by the fact that it's not a traditional Final Fantasy game. Then we go to number 52, which was Alien versus Predator for the PlayStation 3. So this year I kind of went on a bit of a if I wasn't playing anything for the show, and if I wasn't playing anything, that was new out that I really wanted to get to, I was just working through my gaming collection in alphabetical order, which took me to all sorts of different consoles and all sorts of different games. And of course, I've got quite a few Alien games. I love the Alien series, the films. Alien versus Predator, which again is a first person, I guess, kind of a first person shooter, depending on who you're playing as, because you do actually get to play as the alien, the predator, and a marine in three rather short but very enjoyable scenarios. I like the variation there of being able to play as the three different races, and I do think they all handle sufficiently differently that it makes it worthwhile. I will say though, while the alien is very enjoyable to play as, the ability to climb walls and ceilings and just be anywhere in the room at any time can be a little bit dizzying at times, but I think they pull it off just as well as you can expect. And this is a good fucking deal better than the Alien versus Predator film, which, oh, what a blight on an otherwise fantastic series. And yes, I do count Prometheus and Alien Covenant as well because I do enjoy those films. Come at me. At number 51, we have Alan Wake American Nightmare. Now, this is I love Alan Wake. I've yet to play the second one. I really want to play the second one. I will be getting on that at some point. Hopefully, maybe I'll get to that this year. Who knows? American Nightmare is I- it's kind of well, I suppose it's not a DLC really. It's a standalone game that was released certainly on the Xbox Live Marketplace, if not the PS3 store as well. And it picks up after the events of the first Alan Wake. It's a lot shorter, and the gameplay mechanics are almost exactly the same. It's just obviously not as rich and full a meal as the original Alan Wake. It's a nice little snack, whereas Alan Wake is the full three-course meal, and I prefer it because of that. But still lots of fun. Always good to be back in that world. I don't understand it, but I enjoy it. Right, so we're going to take a little break here and go to another comment, and we've got Guy Who Does Things, who says, if Little Kitty Big City isn't number one, it means Alan's been paid off by Big Video Game, and thus Retrotopia will lose all credibility. Well, first of all, Guy Who Does Things, bold of you to assume that we have any credibility here at Retrotopia. Um, I posted this list, not this list, in order. I posted the list of games in completion order on our Patreon, and the patrons were able to comment on any of the games that they saw on the list. So, yes, Little Kitty Big City was one of the games that I completed, and it comes in at number 50. Fun little game, very, very short. I mean, I think this is probably about a 3 or 4 hour long game. I played it on Game Pass because I like cats. I think they're nature's greatest arseholes, and just being able to roam around a city and fuck with passers by. It's a lot of fun. Some of the traversal mechanics could use a little bit of work, but very cute, very enjoyable. A nice little palate cleanser between some of the bigger games there. Again, another one that I think has a quick play in the bank. I can't remember what we've talked about. I don't think it's come out yet, but that episode is to come, so I won't spoil too many of my thoughts, more than I already have done anyway. But sorry, guy who does things, did not come in at number one. You can send in your complaints if you like, but I'm afraid I cannot hear you from my new giant yacht that was paid off by Big Video Game. In at number 49 is Donkey Kong King of Swing. This is for the Game Boy Advance. And again, Game Boy Advance, my favorite handheld console. So a Donkey Kong game on a Game Boy Advance seemed like a slam dunk. And not the game you might expect. I mean, this game, as the title suggests, does focus primarily on that swinging mechanic. So you traverse the areas by triggering Donkey Kong's hands with the shoulder button so you can climb up things. I suppose for those who have played things like Astrobot, you might be familiar with that climbing mechanic, and it's pretty much what this game is exclusively about. And it plays a lot better than that sounds. It's very, very bright, vibrant, colorful. Little tricky to get the hang of and get into the swing of. But it is a good, fun little game. I enjoyed it. I'm going to stop for a little tea break. Nothing more British. At number 48, we have the Nomad Soul for the Dreamcast, otherwise known as Omicron, the Nomad Soul. I don't know where to start with talking about this game. It was developed for the Dreamcast by, I think, the same team, the same developers who would go on to make things like Fahrenheit and Detroit and, oh, what's that game? Was it that game that the glitch where he's just shouting, Sean, Sean, Sean? I can't think what game it is. I think that's by the same team anyway. The Nomad Soul is an interesting, I guess, action RPG game where basically you play you. The game is framed around you being sucked into the world of Omicron and inhabiting the body of the character that you're playing. And one of the more interesting mechanics in this game is that the character you are playing as can die, and your soul, i.e., you, the player, can hop into another random character who they each come with their strengths and their weaknesses. So one might be better in fighting, one might be have more health, and that is a fascinating gaming mechanic. It kind of feels a little bit like, and this is a bit of a stretch, but kind of things like Shenmue, where it's that sort of clunky, but wandering around a town trying to figure out where you need to go next by talking to people and trying to puzzle your way through areas, the odd sort of cutaway to have a fight scene with someone. And it also features original music by David Bowie. So come on, what could be wrong with that? I love a bit of David Bowie, so I'm sure you do as well, because we all do. At number 47 is Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories for the PlayStation Portable, the PSP, my beloved PSP. Great game. It's a Grand Theft Auto game. It's set in Liberty City. It plays almost exactly like GTA 3. I mean, what more can I say? It's not difficult. It's not easy. It's a Grand Theft Auto game. Do I need to say more? It's what you expect. Lots of fun. Basically, it's having GTA 3 in the palm of your hand, and for that, it gets my seal of approval. Lots of fun. At number 46, and I'm surprised I expected this to be a little bit higher, but it is Golden Sun for the Nintendo. Fuck. No, it's the Game Boy Advance. Is it the Game Boy Advance? Yeah, it's the Game Boy Advance. Golden Sun. It's an RPG. Uh, it's a very good RPG. It's no Final Fantasy, certainly, but it does have some interesting mechanics that you can combine different abilities to get other abilities and use those around the world map to unlock different areas. And it's a bit slow to get started, and it's hampered by the fact that it does, spoilers, end rather suddenly because it is part of, I guess, a two-game story. So it's sort of part one and part two, really. Yeah, Golden Sun. 45 is Final Fantasy Ring of Fates, which we just did an episode not too long ago, Sam and myself. It's Final Fantasy. Unlike Dissidia, it is closer to a more traditional Final Fantasy game than Dissidia. A bit more of a Zelda-like, as I think we said on the episode. It's very, very cutesy, at least in appearance. I find the gameplay to be, yeah, very solid. You know, it's nice to have the old enemies on the screen, no random encounters, just go up to them and clobber them like a Zelda game. It's the story though. I mean, we go into more detail on the episode, and if you want to find out, I'm not going to repeat everything here because I think I go into far too much detail already on the episode of Retrotopia, but it is a very, very dark and deep and interesting story. So I think worth a look. Don't expect a traditional Final Fantasy game, but I think it's worth taking a look at. Mm. At number 44, we have the legendary Altered Beast for the Sega Mega Drive. Come on now. I mean, we've all played this game. We know what the story is. Rise from your grave. Yes, Altered Beast, where you take on the role, I guess, of a dead guy who's been picked by, was it Zeus, I think, to go and save his daughter from Hades, and you get to transform into a different beast every level, and that's the secret sauce to this game is the transformations, as it is with quite a few games. Like it is with Kid Chameleon we talked about just recently. It's, you put a good transformation in a game and you're going to bump it up the list. So, Altered Beast, you get to play as a wolf, a bear, a dragon, another wolf. It's a short game and it's fairly unforgiving, but it's a classic, isn't it? I think everyone who had a Mega Drive or Genesis back in the day, they played Altered Beast. It was a pack-in, I think. So, there you go. At number 43, we have Luigi's Mansion 2 Dark Moon. A good little game, a fun little game. It's Luigi's Mansion. It's not as good as the first one, in my opinion. Again, this is another one that we played for the show, and I enjoyed having some handheld Luigi's Mansion. I enjoyed the gameplay for the most part. It's got all of that Nintendo charm. It's Luigi's Mansion. This definitely would have been higher up my list were it not for that fucking balance beam mechanic that required you to use the controller, the DS itself to balance Luigi, and it took me far too long to figure it out. And even when I did figure it out, it was really fucking difficult because I'm old. I don't want to have to be using my console to move things around. Just let me do it with the D-pad. Ah, sucks being old. But yes, Luigi's Mansion 2, you suffer because of that, and that's why you are number 43. Coming in above it, number 42 is another Mario game. It is Super Mario Land for the original Game Boy. I love this game so much. I know it's maybe a little too divorced from your standard Super Mario game. It is a great, solid, tight platformer. It looks like shit, I'll give you that. It sounds amazing though, and it plays really well. It's very, very, very short, but this was a game that I played endlessly as a child and was good enough to beat even then, and just It just makes me happy. I wish you could be higher than 42 Super Mario Land, but unfortunately, there are several games that are better. But you'll always, always have a place in my heart. At number 41, a relatively new game on the list, which was Princess Peach Showtime. Again, sort of similar feelings to this as I had to Luigi's Mansion. You know, it's full of that Nintendo charm. It's solid. It's a great sort of 3D platformer. It's nice to see Princess Peach getting some of the limelight. It doesn't have, as far as I can remember, any of those borderline broken game mechanics. The ability to put on other outfits to change the way that Princess Peach plays is fantastic. I really enjoyed that. There's a lot of variety in the game. It's just fine. It's a solid game. It does what it needs to do. It just doesn't stand out like other Mario games. You know, it's fun. You should definitely play it, but you know, you probably end up forgetting most of it after you've played it. So, coming in at number 40 is The Legend of Santa. I know, and I was surprised that this was as low as it was as well. We were beaming about this game when we talked about it, and for good reason. I mean, I think the reason it is so low is because of how short it is. I think if had it been a longer game, and if they do add more to it, then you know I'll be more than happy to revisit this. But a very solid Mario-like platformer with a Santa Claus skin all over it. We played this at Christmas. It is the perfect game to play at Christmas. I played it on the Switch. I have no idea what else it's on. Um, it's usually very, very cheap. Um, and yeah, we enjoyed The Legend of Santa, and we think you will too. Give it a go. Give it a go. Number 40, The Legend of Santa. Coming in at number 39 is Earthworm Jim for the Sega Mega Drive. This was a game that I played for a quick play. It was specifically picked because the person who picked it had never beaten the game and had never seen anyone who had beaten the game. Um, Sad little sheltered life. You know who you are. I was challenged that not only did I have to quick play this game, I had to beat it. And boy, oh boy, did it nearly kill me to do it, but I did. And I mean, aside from the difficulty, which frankly is just a byproduct of the time it was released, all games were hard back then. You know they were. Earthworm Jim is a game that is full of wacky ideas, gorgeous to look at, plays very, very well. I mean, it'll kick your ass, but it plays very, very well. And probably this year, my proudest gaming achievement, maybe. Certainly it's up there. Earthworm Jim at number 39. It was groovy. All right. Before we move on, we're going to take another comment, and this time it's from Sharkbite, who says, "Were there any games you just couldn't fit in because of time, or you wasn't able to play?" Oh Lord, Sharkbite, there's probably 100 of them. I mean, I look at the backlog, and we've all got a backlog. You know what I'm talking about. There are plenty of games that you wish you had time to play but don't. But I think specifically, I was hoping to get Assassin's Creed Mirage in, which I probably will play very, very soon. I love the Assassin's Creed games. I know they're basically the same game re-released every year, but I don't care. Keep releasing them. I'll keep playing them. So Assassin's Creed Mirage was definitely one of them. I was dabbling with the idea of another playthrough of my beloved Mass Effect. There just wasn't time. Again, probably one I'll get round to. I play that game every few years. I pop the trilogy in again and play them. And literally just about anything else you could pick off of my list. If I haven't beaten it, then I probably wanted to play it, but just didn't have the time. But 2025 is another year, so we start again. All right, thank you, Sharkbite. So at number 38 is Spyro 2 Season of Flame for the Game Boy Advance. This is a very surprising game. Again, this is due a quick play for a Patreon, and it was picked by a Patreon. and I'm not going to say too much about it because we haven't even got that episode out yet. So again, I don't want to spoil my thoughts, but a very surprising little game. I'm not a Spyro guy, not because I don't like Spyro, but just because it's one of those game series I've never really had much experience with. I think I played a little bit of the first one, but beyond that, I am a Spyro novice, and well, without spoiling too much, if the other games in the series are as good as, if not more, than this game, you might just have a fan in me because I enjoyed Spyro 2 Season of Flame quite a bit, and that's all I'll say. Moving on to number 37, and this is again another probably controversial pick. It's Metal Gear Solid 5 on the I played it on the PS4, and this goes for Metal Gear Solid 5. Oh, what was the one before and then the one after? Phantom Limb, Phantom Pain. No, that's it. Phantom Pain is the second bit, and the first bit is whatever. There's probably people screaming it out right now. I can't remember. There's too many games here. Sue me. Metal Gear Solid 5 is a fine game. It is hampered by the fact that it had a troubled production, of course, between Konami and Kojima. I love Metal Gear Solid in spite of myself. It's a series that I have played almost every single game in. I love the story. I just suck at stealth games, and I find myself not getting bored of the stealth. I do play it in order to see because these stories are they're just bonkers, and that's what I'm here for. So the gameplay I can take or leave, but I enjoy the characters, I enjoy the story. And the problem with Metal Gear Solid 5 is that while there is a fantastic story here, it is far too bogged down in a lot of secondary missions that are more or less the same mission sort of rinsed and repeated, and you have to do quite a lot of them to unlock the next part of the story. So I don't know why it felt it needed to be open world. It just felt a bit stretched thin. That's all. So fine game, and it plays probably the best in the entire series. It just felt like there was too much world and too little in it, if that makes sense. So sorry, Snake. Uh, 36 is Alicia Dragoon for the Sega Mega Drive. Now, this was a surprise to me because I picked up Alicia Dragoon to add to the Mega Drive collection, I suppose, because I kept hearing about how good it was. It was on all of those sort of hidden gem Mega Drive lists. So I just thought, oh, well, it's fairly affordable. I'll add it to the collection. And when I finally got round to playing it, I found a very interesting action platformer. Complete with a good amount of variation. Alicia Dragoon has a variety of different power up spirits, what have you, that you can cycle through, each with a different ability that you can use to attack. And it looks absolutely amazing. It's such a good looking game. Plays really, really well. Um, Again, it's very difficult. It would have been higher, except I just think all the games above here are better. That's all it is. There's nothing really wrong with Alicia Dragoon. At number 35, we have Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Master System. I know, 35 Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It was never going to be the Mega Drive version, was it? Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Master System. Again, a fine platformer, a little bit floaty. The physics aren't quite as pinned down as a Mega Drive Sonic the Hedgehog. Again, I sort of have a fear of this game, predominantly based on the nearly impossible Game Gear port of it. So as a child, that has sort of ingrained itself into my mind. But I did sneak this one in under the wire, and it's a fine game. It's a good but not great Sonic the Hedgehog game. Um, which leads us to 34, which is Sonic the Hedgehog 1 for the Master System. Kind of a 1A, 1B here on the list. And for all the same reasons, Sonic the Hedgehog 1, I think, plays a little bit better. And I think the levels are slightly more enjoyable, although not much. And the music is absolutely brilliant. Actually, the music is brilliant in both of these Sonic the Hedgehog games. But again, the platforming physics are just not quite. I mean, it's a limitation of the Master System, of course it is. It was never going to be as smooth as the Mega Drive with all of its blast processing and what have you. But they're both fine Sonic the Hedgehog games. They're just not a patch on the Mega Drive trilogy, certainly. Coming in at number 33 is Alwa's Awakening. This is a relatively recent game I played on the Nintendo Switch. It's one of those retro inspired Metroidvania games, and I think yeah, for an 8-bit game, it looks. I mean, obviously, 8-bit, 16-bit, all of those games look fantastic to me. I mean, they will never age. And Alba's Awakening uses that graphical style to beautiful effect. I mean, it is a great looking 8-bit game. Nice, tight, solid gameplay. It could perhaps do with a tiny bit more variation in the abilities. I mean, I think one of the best things about a Metroidvania are all of the different abilities that you can collect, and this game does have them, but there's just not that many of them. So that hampers it just slightly. And that's really the only complaint I can come up with for that one. Again, I think there's a quick play for that somewhere. If you're a Patreon, go and check it out. At number 32 is Buster Busts Loose for the Super Nintendo, which is again one we covered not too long ago. Beautiful, beautiful platforming game. Again, it looks like you're playing a cartoon. It sounds like you're playing a cartoon. It's got those lovable tiny tunes in it, so you can't go wrong with that. It's just a little bit short. It's just that American football level, and if you wanna know my feelings about the American football level, you can listen to the episode of Retrotopia about it because I bust loose on the American football level there. So, that hampers it ever so slightly. It would be higher if not for those things. So, there you go. At number 31, we have The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. Probably one of the, if not the newest game on the list. I am a die-hard Legend of Zelda fan, and it was so wonderful to see Zelda get her own game. It felt like it was a long time coming, and they released this on the Switch, and it's good. It's not amazing, but it is very, very good. It's just and I don't want to go into too much detail because this is a relatively new game, so I don't want to spoil things for anyone. But I suppose it's no spoilers to say that the main mechanic of the game is Zelda's ability to create echoes of hundreds of items in the world that you can use to solve puzzles and fight enemies. And while it's a good ability and it's very, very clever, there's far too much choice. There's far too much scrolling through things, and frankly, it feels like every couple of minutes or so you're effectively pausing the game to find a new thing to solve something, and it really does slow down gameplay. And I really would have liked to have seen Zelda be able to perhaps cut loose in a more chic from Ocarina of Time. I nearly forgot what Ocarina of Time was then. My God. It would have been nice to see her be able to use more of those kind of abilities. So a fine game, just not the greatest of Legend of Zeldas. Now, speaking of a great Legend of Zelda game, it's not even a Legend of Zelda game. At number 30 is Alundra for the PlayStation 1, which is an incredibly close Zelda-like released for the original PlayStation, and it's a fantastic game, this. It's again one of those games that looks fantastic. It is hampered ever so slightly by that slight isometric platforming thing, which does make it very, very difficult to line up your jumps, but it's chock full of amazing puzzles. It has great combat, it has a fantastic story, and so there is one central village to the entire game, and rather than static villagers and what have you that you just revisit every time you fulfill a dungeon or a quest or what have you, things happen in this village that are dark, shocking, heartbreaking at times. It is a very vibrant world with some great storytelling to it, and I would recommend Alundra to anyone. It's not easy, but it is a very rich meal. So Alundra at number 30. At number 29, we have Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, which I told you there was going to be more Baldur's Gate on this list. And Dark Alliance, of course, for the PlayStation 2, is an example of a dungeon crawler that I do get on with because this is very much a hack and slash dungeon crawling RPG. So rather than having to build your characters, I mean, I suppose there is character building in this. You know, you get to put sync points into abilities and what have you. It is so much fun. We played this co-op, my wife and myself, and just had a blast all the way through. Just clobbering enemies and stealing gold from each other, and it's I yeah, just very very enjoyable if you're playing it with a friend. The only reason that I rank this below, and spoilers, there is another Dark Alliance game further up this list, is that the necessity to heal through potions and what have you. Really did hamper the gameplay somewhat. It felt like you were just trying to heal yourself all the time, and that got a little bit old. But otherwise, a very good game. At number 28, we have Baldur's. No, that was 29. We have Golden Sun: The Lost Age, the second part of the Game Boy Advance Golden Sun duology. The Lost Age was just a better game. A more complete game, of course, because you got the end of the story, so it didn't feel like it left you high and dry halfway through. It was nice. You get to basically play as the quote unquote bad guys from the original Golden Sun game and see their side of the story. I thought the abilities were much better implemented and just overall had a much better time with it. Really, really got lost in the Lost Age. No pun intended. So, no, Golden Sun, The Lost Age at 28. At 27, we've got Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2, which I enjoyed again for the PS2 with the wife for all the same reasons as Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 1. The character classes were just a lot better. We actually had a healer, which took away a lot of the frustrations of the first game and just made the entire thing a lot more enjoyable. So, copy paste Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance and add a healer. At number 26, we have Final Fantasy 13. Final Fantasy 13 for the PlayStation 3. What can I say? It is one of those games that you either love or you hate. And I have to say I loved it. I loved it. I certainly didn't hate it. There are, and I probably will end up doing one of these solo episodes about Final Fantasy 13 sooner rather than later because I don't want all of the information to go out of my head. It's a fine game. It's gorgeous. The music is amazing. I enjoy the gameplay. I enjoy the what it's not a job system. I can't think of the name of it right now. There is one person here who's screaming it. I can hear you. I can hear you. But yes, you have different roles for each character that you can switch between on the fly, and I thought that was very well implemented and just allowed for a lot of variation. I enjoyed the story. I'm going to leave it at that because, as I say, I'll probably have a lot more to say when I get round to the episode proper. Now, God, this is a lot of talking, and we've still got so many to go. This is going to be a long episode. Before we get into the next one, we've got a comment here from Unbuckled Cape who says, I don't think I've beaten 60 games in my life, let alone in a year. Hell, the only one on this list that I have beaten is Halo Reach. And the reason I've put you there, Cape, is of course because at number 25 is Halo Reach for the, I mean, Xbox 360. I think we played it on God, one of the other Xboxes, I can't remember now. Probably the Series S. Halo Reach. I enjoy Halo. It's I'm not terribly good at first person shooters, but I do enjoy Halo Reach. It's one of the I mean, I have actually soloed it on Legendary, which is again one of my I couldn't do it these days. This was years ago, but it's probably again another one of those gaming achievements that I'm most proud of. Again, another one that I co-opted with the missus, and it's Halo. I mean, is it the best Halo game? I kind of think it is. I think Halo Reach is probably the best, certainly story wise. I think. Well, If you know, you know. But it's a fantastic Halo game, and we enjoyed it very, very much. The problem with Halo is I don't like it quite as much as I like number 24, which is Gears of War. Again, we played it on the Series S, I think. Another one that we co-opted. Gears of War, I just prefer to Halo all day long. You know, the third person view, the absolute ridiculous meat-headed machismo of Delta Squad there, the guns that have actual fucking chainsaws on them. What is not to love? Gears of War is an absolutely fantastic series. We're going to be playing through the rest of them as well. Very excited to hear that there's more to come. Gears of War at number 24. At number 23, again for another episode of Retrotopia, is Castlevania Rondo of Blood. An absolutely fantastic example of the original platforming Castlevania genre. I can't fault this at all. It was an absolutely fantastic game. The only problem with it is that I do kind of prefer the sort of Metroidvania style of Castlevania. That's the only reason that this isn't higher up the list. I love the original style of Castlevania. I just prefer things like Symphony of the Night, Aria of Sorrow, that sort of thing. So, Rondo of Blood. At number 22, we have a relatively new game for myself. It's not a new game by any stretch, but I've never played it before, and that is Mega Man X. Truth be told, I think I'm coming to the realization that I am not much of a Mega Man guy. I like them fine. You know, they are good games. I mean, this edges out the Rondo of Blood because it's just the gameplay style of grabbing other weapons and you know the whole Mega Man thing, using the Maverick's weapon against another one, and just that whole figuring out how you're going to work your way through the game. There's just more depth to it, I think. I struggled with it, but it is a fantastic game, and I'm not going to cost it any because I suck at Mega Man. Talking of a game that I sucked at but really enjoyed, at number 21 is Alien Soldier for the Mega Drive. This is a game that I wanted to play for years, ever since seeing screenshots in my UK Sonic the Comics. This game looked absolutely bonkers. The art style is incredibly weird and gross, and if it helps, it's a run and gun shooter made by the same people who make Gunstar Heroes. So if you know, that should tell you everything you need to know about Alien Soldier. It's fast, it's frantic, there's loads of different weapons, the bosses are insane. It's just balls to the wall fun, and I loved it. It took me a while to get through, but I loved it. At number 20, we have, here he is again, Alan Wake, which I played for the Xbox 360. Again, I love Alan Wake. I was very late to the party on this one, but I found the story to be absolutely fantastic. I loved the use of light as a weapon. I just all the references to Stephen King as well. I'm a huge Stephen King fan, so that really, really vibed with me. It's just an all-round great game. And again, I will hopefully at some point get on to playing Alan Wake 2 because I hear that is also fantastic. Mm, that is the coldest cup of tea now. At number 19, we have Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze for the Nintendo Switch. It's Donkey Kong again. It's a Donkey Kong platformer. It's hard as fuck. It's beautiful to look at again. I mean, listen, if you fuck up playing a Donkey Kong game, it is all your fault because the gameplay here is tight as a drum, and you can't blame the game for sucking at it. And again, I there were some hair-tearing moments playing this one. I'll give you that. But it's just Donkey Kong. It's a wonderful series, loads of fun to play, and I loved it. Right, before we move on to number 18, Raging Demon would like to say, a nice list, impressive work, mate. Thank you very much, Raging Demon. Um, Short, to the point. I appreciate everything you just said. And the reason I've put you here, Raging Demon, is because I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure you're a big Sega guy. So I thought I'd have you working into number 18, which is, of course, Streets of Rage 2. This game should be higher up on the list. Streets of Rage 2 is an absolutely incredible fighting game, beat 'em up game rather. Um, Again, we covered it on Retrotopia. It is, I think, a perfect example of the genre. Tough as nails, just just fun. Just really switch off your brain, pick up a controller, and beat up waves and waves of punks on the mean streets of Rage for the second time, because it's number 2. Moving to number 17, we have, and again, another surprise, this being so low down on the list, and I'm probably going to hear about this from our good man Brian, but it is Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. Absolutely brilliant game. I remember playing this when I was a child. I couldn't beat it then. I can beat it now, and it's just platforming at its finest. I mean, there's nothing I can say about Super Mario World that hasn't already been said. It's just one of those games. It is just an all-round great platformer. The only reason it's so far down on this list is that there are, I think, other platformers sort of around the time, since the time, that just had a little bit of extra seasoning on it, just set it apart. And one of those games at number 16 was Rocket Knight Adventures. Again, another platformer, and would have been a very bog standard platformer had it not been for the addition of that jetpack. And also the level variety, can't fault that as well. You know, the ability to have a side-scrolling shoot 'em up level, a upward scrolling level where you have to dodge falling walls, a level where you play Rock'em Sock'em Robots with Axel gear. There's a lot going on in this game. Again, a stunning example of why I think, maybe controversially, but the Sega Mega Drive will always look better to me than the Super Nintendo. It's just gorgeous. Like we said on the episode, it's like playing a cartoon. A a Coke-filled cartoon full of possums, knights, and jetpacks. So there we are. In at number 15 is Axiom Verge, which is I played it for the PS4. It's a Metroidvania, and I love a good Metroidvania, and this is a good Metroidvania. Again, in that sort of 8-bit art style, which it uses to incredible effect. Um, Lots of different moves and abilities, a huge map to play through. It's just a solid Metroidvania. It's a great example. I think it was. Am I right in thinking this was developed by like just one dude? Because if that's the case and it's the game I'm thinking of, that's incredible. It's an incredible achievement. I've yet to play Axiom Verge 2. I've got it up on my PS5. I think it was free on PlayStation Plus at one point, so I snagged that. Looking forward to playing it. Speaking of PS5, at number 14 is Astro's Playroom, which, as we all remember, was the preloaded, pre-built in uh, almost tutorial for the PlayStation 5 and its controller. It didn't introduce Astro as far as I know. I think there was one before that, which I've not played. But Astro's Playroom was way more fun than was effectively a tech demo had any right to be. It definitely wet my whistle for the Game of the Year Astrobot, which you may see a little bit higher up on this list if you're lucky. We'll see. But absolutely, again, snare drum type platforming, wonderful 3D world, lots and lots of fun. Speaking of platforming in 3D worlds, I guess, kind of. At number 13 is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I love Star Wars. Can you tell? Has it come up at all in any of the other episodes? I think it might have done. And Jedi Survivor was a continuation of the story from Jedi Fallen Order, which I have to admit I do think is the superior game. Jedi Survivor is an absolutely fantastic addition to the Star Wars, I suppose. Is it canon? I consider it canon. Fuck it. Why not? Everything is canon if you say it's canon. So the only problem with Jedi Survivor is that while it did tell an incredible story, it took a while to get there. And I think the addition of what is effectively an open world to this game kind of killed the pacing of the story just ever so slightly. Once it got going, it was fantastic. And all of that juicy Jedi gameplay that you had from the first game is still here and present. And this had some incredibly hard hitting moments. Just not quite as good as Fallen Order, which I think we can all agree. Those who have played it can agree is an incredible Star Wars game. At number 12 is Borderlands, the original Borderlands, which we played on, I think, PlayStation 5. Again, co-oping together. I love Borderlands. If you mention the film, I will kill you. But otherwise, the games I love. I think they're incredible. Just good fun, just good co-op fun, just zany characters, wacky landscapes, more guns than you can shake a stick at, and it's just one of those games we like to just pop on, shut our brains off, maybe have a drink or two, and just slaughter our way through. Still working on Borderlands 2 at the moment, which again we've played before in the past, but we're revisiting a lot of these co-op games. So Borderlands definitely high up on the list, but not quite in the top 10. Now at number 11, this one surprises even me because at number 11 is the PlayStation hidden gem, the cult classic that is the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. How is this not in the top 10? Well, I'll tell you why when we get there, but this is not in the top 10 for a very good reason. Again, go back to the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver episode. I think I salivated all over this game. It's one that I played. It's one that I've played. God, maybe 10 times or more. I cannot get tired of the voice acting, the pseudo Metroidvania style of 3D gameplay, just the world that it's set in, and the overarching story of the entire Legacy of Kain series is just some of the best I think that's ever been told in gaming. So, Legacy of Kain. Sorry, I'm surprised myself that you weren't in the top 10, but we'll get there. And before we get into the top 10, we are going to go to Big Kid 782, who says, not to put any pressure on you, but there is only one correct choice for top game out of this list. If you do not pick correctly, my membership will self destruct. Looking over this list looks like you had a good year of gaming. Thank you, Big Kid 782. I did have a good year of gaming, and I mean, you said no pressure. I think did you say no pressure? Yeah, not to put any pressure on you. That feels like an awful lot of pressure because I don't really want your membership to self-destruct. The problem is you haven't told me what that correct choice of game is. So God, here's hoping that I get it right. Obviously, if I don't get it right, maybe just step away from your membership because I don't want you to get caught in the blast. You know, don't want to lose you, big kid. Yeah, you mean a lot to us. Right. The top 10. Here we go. My God, we're getting there. And this is probably the longest I've ever talked about anything ever. In at number 10 is my beloved Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Mega Drive. Just in the top 10, which says a lot about the rest of the games on this list. Now, as you know, I am a die-hard Sonic the Hedgehog stan. I love the series. I love Sonic. I love everything about this, even the bad games. I love them. Sonic the Hedgehog on the Mega Drive is not a bad game. It's just a little slow. They haven't quite figured out what they want the series to be yet. While I do think the platforming's nice and tight, it's Brian had something when he said that it doesn't really allow you to open up and get that whole speed thing that they were so adamant on pushing about Sonic the Hedgehog. And hopefully Brian's not listening to this because hey, he doesn't need to know that he was right. He'll get a big head, and I just don't have to put up with that. So Brian, if you just joined us now, just you're wrong. Everything you're just wrong. Moving on. Number 9 is Super Mario RPG for the Nintendo Switch. And again, this is a very surprising one to me because we never got Super Mario RPG over in the UK. I'm sure there's probably ways I could have emulated it or I could have done so, but I'm not very technologically literate. I couldn't figure all that sort of stuff out. It took me that long just to get my PSP to play fucking Pepsi Man. But Super Mario RPG, when we did finally get hold of it, is just wonderful. It is so much fun. It's very charming. The gameplay is brilliant. I just had a smile on my face the entire time playing it. I cannot fault a thing about it. Super Mario RPG at number 9. In at number 8, and again, surprisingly low down on the list, is the Resident Evil 4 remake. Again, I love Resident Evil. It's a fantastic series, and I love it dearly. Again, I've got I think every game upstairs on the shelf, and I love them all dearly. The problem with the Resident Evil 4 remake is that it is a remake of Resident Evil 4, And going in, I didn't think Resident Evil 4 needed to be remade. I'm still not sure it needed to be remade, and the remake is outstanding. But I sort of think, well, a lot of the work was already done for you. There, it was, I guess, was it remade from the ground up? I'm not sure. It was just too close to the original for me to get it any higher. When you look at something like Final Fantasy VII remake, I mean that is night and day. This, I'm not sure there was enough in it to justify it being higher up on my list. Still a fantastic game though, because Resident Evil 4 is a fantastic game. At number 7, and again, the reason why Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver did not make it into the top 10 is because number 7 is the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver remake, which came out recently. I will shout from the rooftops that everyone needs to buy and play this game because A, it's a remake of an already fantastic game. And I know what I just said about Resident Evil 4. Hold on, because this game really did need cleaning up. The graphics are so much better. The gameplay, just the ability to control the camera is just fantastic. The ability to see where you're going more easily meant I found so many new areas that I'd never found before, and yet they've kept all of the voice acting, they've kept all of that wonderful gameplay. It's just the game I love so dearly taken up several levels, and that's reflected in my list. It basically has been taken up several levels. So, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver remake, now my favorite way to play that game, and I certainly hope enough people play it so that we get a new addition to the series, because that would make me happy. In at number 6, it's my boy Sonic again. Sonic Superstars for the PlayStation 5. Fantastic return to form for Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, it's no secret that he's not done too well in the 3D space of late, and Sega are figuring this out. They're starting to put Sonic back in 2D where he shines. And Sonic Superstars was a fantastic example of why Sonic works in 2D. Beautiful game, fantastic gameplay, surprisingly hard as well, especially towards the end. Like I got the rage a little bit with this one, but my boy's back, and I can't wait to see what they do next. So Sonic Superstars, reinstilling some hope in the Sonic fan base, I think. At number 5, we have Metroid Zero Mission. Again, a Metroidvania, one of the Metroidvanias, a remake of the original Metroidvania, arguably. Metroid Zero Mission is, again, another one of those remakes that just does everything better. I mean, the original Metroid is a fantastic game, but literally every aspect of Metroid that you can think of is improved and then expanded upon in Metroid Zero Mission for the Game Boy Advance, and for that, I love it. I love the Metroid series, and Zero Mission just took everything that was good and just dialed it up. What a fantastic game! Again, we did an episode on it. Go and check it out. I think even the uninitiated into Metroidvanias have found themselves loving this game, and well deserved. At number 4, we have Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, and I could not believe that this beat a Metroid game. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I love the Prince of Persia series. I played this on the Switch, I think. It's a Prince of Persia Metroidvania game. My God, what could be better? Not much, as it turns out. It's in at number 4. Just an amazing Metroidvania all round. The gameplay is just so tight and precise, and the bosses are just insane, and the difficulty is just right. I mean, it is hard, but it's never cheap, never unfair. I mean, I will recommend Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown to anyone, and that surprises me. That surprises me because, I knew I loved the Prince of Persia, but I did not think that this game would be as good as I thought, as good as I found it. So, in at number 4, Prince of Persia: Lost Crown. Hang in there, guys. We're almost there. Just before we get to number 3, I'm going to go to Blaine the Hoagie Man, who says, "My favorite game I played last year is definitely Astrobot. It's a game with all the fun and charm, and it puts a smile on my face." Blaine, I cannot agree with you more. In at number 3 on my list is Astrobot for the PlayStation 5 Game of the Year 2024. What A game. Astrobot is one of those games, if you've not played it, it made me feel the way I felt the first time I played Mario 64 on the N64. It is just the perfect, the now, I think, definitive 3D platforming game. It is so much fun. It's so chill. It has difficulty spikes exactly where they're supposed to be. It's got the challenge if you want it. You can avoid all of that and just play the game as you like. It has everything. So many callbacks to the entire history of PlayStation as well. It's just like, again, another game that I just could not stop smiling while I was playing. It's just Astrobot deserves all of the praise that it's getting, and it's getting a lot for good reason. At number two, well, before we get to number two, actually, we've got Fallen Snow Kiku, who says, "Darn, that's a lot of games. My personal favorites that I played and slash or finished for the first time in 2024 off the top of my head are probably Chrono Trigger, Cyberpunk 2077, and Limbo in no particular order. But I'll have to try and figure out what all I played then. Uh, well, I'm not sure about that last bit, Kiku, but the rest of it makes perfect sense. Um, Limbo is an absolutely fantastic game. I love that game. If you've what's that other one? If you've not played Inside and you like Limbo, play Inside. Very, very similar game. And if you have played it, then you already know. Cyberpunk, I've not played, although the wife has, and she says it's fantastic. I'm looking forward to that. Maybe that's one of the ones I'll get to this year. Who knows? But the other one at number two is Chrono Trigger, as you mentioned. How can I say any more about Chrono Trigger? I mean, this is just a game that all of us here at Retrotopia love dearly. It is, to my mind, the perfect RPG. It has everything. It has the visuals, it has the music, it has one hell of a story. It is just so replayable. I love Chrono Trigger. I love it almost as much as I love the game at number one. Just again, well, maybe I'm not surprised that Chrono Trigger is at number two, but maybe you are. Maybe you're surprised that Chrono Trigger isn't number two, because here we are. We made it at number one on my list of games that I completed in 2024. Absolutely no surprise to anyone who's been listening to the show for any length of time. It's, of course, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Mega Drive. Maybe a bit of an anticlimax, I know, but what can I say? I was born, raised on Sonic the Hedgehog, and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is the game that cemented me as a gamer. It's the reason I am talking to you now, because of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 just setting me on the path to be a gamer for the rest of my life. It's, to my mind, the perfect platformer. It looks just, ah, what can I, it looks gorgeous. It's the music. Come on, Chemical Plant Zone. I'll put some, oh, you know what? I'll put that in. I'll put Chemical Plant Zone in right here. Come on, right? I mean, that's just perfect. I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, literally, undeniably the best game I've ever played, um, at least from a nostalgic and historical point of view. And oh my god, that's gonna do it. That's almost gonna do it. Except we're gonna wrap this episode up with one last question from Randy Berridge, the man who I'm pretty sure is the inspiration for this episode. And Randy says, "Hi Alan, can't wait for the episode. Big fan of a lot of these games and a big fan of you." Ah, I'm a big fan of you as well, Randy. Thank you very much. 3 questions, he says. Surprise of the year, disappointment of the year, and if you could recommend me one game, what would you pick? Surprise of the year. Well, aside from fucking Pepsi Man, I think Astrobot has to be the surprise of the year. I had a feeling it was going to be good, and everyone was talking it up, but I had no idea just how much I was going to fall in love with that game. And I think you've played that one as well, so you know what I'm talking about. Definitely came out of nowhere to cement itself as probably one of my favorite games of all time. Just straight up. Uh, Disappointment of the year. Oh, that's a difficult question, isn't it? Oh, do you know what? I would probably have to say Baldur's Gate 2. Not that it's a bad game or anything, it's just I wanted to like that game a lot more than I did. And again, it's no fault of the game itself. It's just the fact that I did not get you Baldur's Gate 2, and I'm sorry. Maybe I'll try again one day. put a bit more attention into actually how the game works and how the different character classes works, and see if I can figure out a way to actually win some fights. But yeah, just for whatever reason, just did not gel with me. And if I could recommend one game, what would I pick? Oh, tricky one, because I don't know what you've played. I would say if you've not played Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, give that one a go, especially if you like Metroidvanias, you like platformers. Um, that one probably not as surprising as Astrobot, but certainly up there in sort of my surprise again, because that has stapled itself in one of my favorite games of all time. What can I say? Maybe give Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown a go. See how you think. If not that, then definitely the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver remake. Buy that game, buy that game. Everybody buy that game so I get a new one. That's going to do it. That's going to do it for this ranking of all the games I beat in 2024. That's going to do it for this episode of Retrotopia. Guys, thank you very much for indulging me. If you like what you heard, let me know. Maybe I'll do another one of these again next year. You know, just let me know what you thought. And obviously, tune into Retrotopia every Sunday, wherever you get your podcasts. Come and check out all of our socials and what have you at linktree/Retrotopia. That's linktr.ee/Retrotopia. And from me and everyone else here at Retrotopia, from the bottom of our hearts, I wish you a wonderful 2025, and I wish you a wonderful year of gaming. Game on.